I welcome everyone to a very special episode of the Fake Nerd Book Club. We are here joined by Michael Moreci, the co-creator, writer of Wasted Space, which was our very first Fake Nerd Book Club series. Yes, I have all 3 volumes with me right now.
Oh, the new one.
Yeah, the 3rd volume just came out last week. So thank you so much for joining us. You know, not only have you done Wasted Space, you've done Battlestar Galactica, you've done Star Wars, you did Roche Limit a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So you've been around the block.
I have. Yeah. The town bike. Should ride all the comics.
Thank you very much for joining us. We're very excited to have you here.
Yeah, no, I'm thrilled to be here. Glad we were able to finally connect. You know, as you know, Brandon, we kept striking out, and I basically, which means I screwed up. Do I have to refrain myself? Should I swear or not swear? What's the grade level here?
Refrain from the F-bomb, but everything else is fine.
It's gonna be a short interview. No, just kidding. No, just kidding. But no, I did screw up some times and stuff, for which I apologize. But I'm glad we're finally able to pull it together.
Yeah, me too. We found Wasted Space quite by accident. We were looking for a new show to do, a new book to do it with, and Sparks had suggested this comic that he had heard of, Wasted Space, and we fell in love with it from the first volume on.
Yeah. After he read it, he's like, you're gonna love this book, Ryan, because for real, Michael, like, not to like blow too much smoke up your ass, but like, if I were to write a comic, this is the comic I would write, my man. Like I love Wasted Space so much. It hits all the notes with what I love about science fiction, with like about the humanity of people while still having the big cosmic aspect of it. I think it's really well written. I think it's really clever. I think the characters are great. I think it's dope, and I'm glad we get to talk about it. We didn't know it was an ongoing after the first volume, and we were bummed out. We don't get to read it anymore, and then luckily we found out it got to become an ongoing. So can you talk about that at all, how it originally wasn't, correct?
No, it wasn't originally. No, and thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it. And thank you, Sparks, for recommending it. I knew I liked you from the start. Yeah. So when we first did it, the first roadmap I guess we had was like 8-ish, 9-ish issues, something like that. You know, this is kind of involves like really nation period. It was like this wave of books. Like they had a few. They were kind of out there, were like scattered titles, good titles, but scattered titles that they released. And then there was this kind of wave that I feel like it was like Wasted Space. I don't know the order in which they came up. It was like Wasted Space, Friendo, Fearscape, Savage Shores. And all these kind of books were like right around the same time of release. And they did well for Vault. I think it was kind of like the thing that almost kind of like got Vault over a hurdle, you know, because they're good books, you know, and I'm not trying to make a testament just to Wasted Space, but the 3 other that I mentioned are also remarkable comics. And because they were successful commercially, critically, we had conversations, like me and Hayden had conversations with the people of Vault, which is, you know, Adrian and Damon Wassel, who are the best. And they were like, what do you think about doing more? And at the time, I was a little intimidated because I was like, well, this is kind of a limited thing. Like, I was like, how much can people digest of this show of terrible people doing terrible things? And apparently a lot. And so we sent like these 10 polls. I was like, well, this is like a limited thing. We can't have them waxing philosophically. And I'm sure we'll talk more that, you know, during the show. We can't have them waxing philosophically for like, you know, for you know, infinitum. You know, it just doesn't work that way. It's not a concept that is meant to be. Doesn't have the elasticity of who's Iron Man punching this week. You know, like it's a different foundation. So like I was like, well, I sat down, I mapped it all out, and I was like, well, these are kind of the things that I originally had kind of wanted to do, and kind of stretching some out and adding some based on what I learned in the process of writing the first arc or so. I was like, 25 would be like a really good number. That would be like the magic number that I would like to kind of get to. And Vault, to their credit, to their testament, we're like, that's great, and they were all for it. And we did this whole map. of what the series would be, and they've let me, take that 25 issues and stick to it and go with it, and it's been great. We're just, as a matter of fact, Hayden is just finishing illustrating issue 20 this week.
Wow.
She's just about done. Yeah.
So you're pretty far ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things with as I'm sure you all know, like when COVID threw, essentially everything off. Vault did this really cool thing where they took a step back. They were like, look, they were very vocal in their outreach to retailers, and they were very clear. And they're like, we know you guys are struggling, so we're going to take a step back for a little bit. And we're not going to pressure you to buy or pressure you to, extend your wallets beyond what they can extend at this weird time. So everything, they kind of pushed everything away. And the next Wasted Space release was the trade. And we're like, well, we can't do anything until the trade comes out. And we want that out for a little bit as always a strategy. I think Wasted Space is kind of a trade read. I don't know how, I think it still does. I mean, it sells some issues, but I think the trade read is kind of where it's at with this book. So like, well, we're going to release the trade. And that was supposed to be in like April originally, or May, something like that. So it's pushed back till now, till where are we, September. So we want to give that a little time to gestate. And that gave Hayden some time to really kind of take his time. The next arc is better than anything he's ever done, which is saying a lot, because I think he's out of this world. So now we've got this big lead time. So when 16 comes out next month, it'll be, by the time it's out, he's done up through through volume 4.
Nice.
That's I think that's great, considering like on our podcast we often talk about like comic book delays, and like nothing is worse than like being super into a book and then having to wait like 6 months for the next issue. So I'd rather be delayed and get it like done. You know what I mean? I super appreciate that mentality to it.
Well, it reminds me of Saga. Saga has we'll release 6 issues and then a trade, and then we'll catch up.
Yeah.
Oh, I think
that's smart.
Yeah. But where are you now, Saga? Wasted Space here.
Yeah, Saga took a 2-year hiatus.
Wasted Space is coming out soon.
Yeah, we didn't take any hiatus.
So I want to ask kind of.
So no, but we.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no. Well, all I was gonna say is that it's we're in a lucky spot though, because Hayden is very fast. Very, very fast artist. Not only is he remarkably talented, he is just a machine. He does like 2 to 3 books at a time.
Wow.
I don't know if that's been because he's doing the Angel series right now too at Boom, and something else. I forget what. It might not be out yet. I forget what he's doing, but he juggles like 2 or 3 projects regularly and never misses.
That's crazy. Man, that's crazy.
Never. The only reason he's even behind on just doing issue 20 now is because he had all this time. We're like, well, we're pushing it back 4 months, so he probably went and drew 6 different books in that time, and came back to
it. So you've done a lot of space comics. You've done Battlestar Galactica. You've done Star Wars. Did Wasted Space come from a desire to kind of make your mark in that genre?
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you where I can tell you the Wasted Space origin story. I was at this period in my career. I don't really write much for Marvel and DC. I don't have crazy ambition to do that. There's some characters I'd love to do, but I was at this point in my career. I was like, I just didn't know what to do next. Roche Limit, I had done that, and Curse and Burning Fields, and I love those books. And this isn't to take anything away, but I was looking at comics. I was looking at like the comics market and like what's out, and I just looked around. I just was like, man, I just kind of I wasn't feeling inspired. I felt kind of bored. I felt like I was just like, I want a comic that just, I don't feel like any comic comes out. And this was at a time where I feel like so many comics, like original comics, weren't coming out with like the gusto of the comics that I love. I feel like they're like a lot of like bland TV shows, that were just being put into comics, and I just hate that. And I was like, what are the comics? I was thinking to me, like, what are the comics that like grab you by the shirt, or like for me, and made me want to read them, and made me like shock me and surprise me, and went to these places that only comic books go. That's the beauty that like TV, until like The Boys, like TV generally doesn't go to these outrageous places and these dynamic places. And I started thinking about, old Vertigo era stuff, especially Preacher, which is one of my favorite series of all time. And I was like, well, how do I want to do something like this? And I think, so the story is, so the actual, I had all this stuff on my mind. That was kind of like the engine that was going. And this was a Christmas Day a few years ago. I was super sick. I was just remarkably sick. And I have 2 kids, and you can't be sick on Christmas. And I was going to my in-laws. I was sick. I was grumpy. I was shit, what am I going to do to get through this day? So I remember going to Walgreens and just, they were open, thankfully, on Christmas Day. And I went and just bought all this cold medicine. And I got super hopped up on all this cold medicine, literally just pounded cold medicine just so I can get through this day. And I was driving to my in-laws again. I was just not feeling it, and Wasted Space popped to my mind. I was I had all that stuff before I wanted to do, and I was this is what it is. It basically all came to me in this kind of cold medicine fugue state.
What was? Do you remember what the first thing you thought of was? Was it Billy? Was it Dust? Do you remember what was the idea, the kernel that brought it to life?
It was the title. It was about who is somebody who's super effed up, and I can play with this title of somebody who's wasted all the time, and just wasted space because he's such a piece of garbage, even though he's not.
Yeah. One of my questions is, when was the part when you were thinking about how Wasted Space and the characters, what part made you yeah, let's make a god and let's kill him?
Yeah, I don't know. Originally the bad guy was going to be Yam. That was going to be the original long game was Yam. And I was like, I don't know. I feel that's such low hanging fruit. I feel it's such an easy target. So I wanted to be how can we make this? And it's a great question. It's how can we make this so crazy? And I think one of the things I was probably inspired by, I'm always fascinated by, I always want to be in the room for the pitch for the Golden Compass series, where it's we have this series where these kids are going to go out and they're going to kill God. Who greenlit that? It's brilliant. I love that series.
Yeah.
Who greenlit that?
When you're talking about how you were hopped up on cough medicine during Christmas, I just think it's funny if you were probably at a corner near your in-laws' house, just trying to recover, and you're this sucks. I hate life. God is dead. Wait a minute.
God is dead.
On Christmas of all days, right?
Of Christmas of all days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that probably played a role, I think it came from Legion. Legion was the one thing that I added at the end of issue 1. I was man, what's the cool hook? What's the cool teaser that I can do at the end of this issue? And I just, and the way I wrote Legion, which I don't know if anybody's seen, this is a prototype. This is I'll show Legion right here for those at home.
Oh, wow.
No.
What?
He is
That's
huge.
too cool.
Yeah, we're still getting it out. We're working out the details. I know it's coming. That's
rad. That's cool.
Yeah.
Legion is actually one of my favorite characters in the book.
Oh yeah.
Oh, me too.
You heard it here first, folks. Legion toys are coming.
Legion toys coming, man. And I'll tell you what, if you like Legion, issue 16 is a all Legion issue.
Nice.
It's like a little intro with Billy and the gang, and it goes to just a purely Legion. And it's man, Hayden drew the shit out of that issue, man. It's so weird.
The 15 issues I have read, I just love the way Legion talks. He'll when someone says, "Oh shit," or they're swearing up the wazoo, he just turns to him and says, "Language."
Yeah.
He is not afraid to murder your ass, but at the same time, he's hey, be respectful about it.
Yeah, I like that
really
kind
cool
of etiquette. He's a stickler for courtesy. But yeah, no, I mean, that was the big thing. And it's funny, I drew him as he's in the script, he's this big red kind of god, and I wasn't intending on him being 20 feet tall. And that's how Hayden drew him, just massive. And I was what are we gonna do? How are we gonna have this guy go around in public? What are we? And I was just leave it. We'll just see what happens. It was so brilliant. It's so good. I was no, don't change a thing. And we just had to figure that out as we go. But it was one of those happy accidents where it's it worked really well with him and the creator being this kind of oppositional forces, which in the, working and, orchestrating in the background, which is something I've come to really enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhat related to the end of issue 1 with Legion's appearance, the beings around Legion are all in a circle, and they have a whole bunch of images of the universe coming down upon them. Are they all high?
Probably.
Are they all getting high?
That
High up the universe, baby.
Most likely, yes. Yeah. That's I kind of ripped that from Minority Report, where all those people are like just kind of like monitoring stuff. I kind of stole that.
I can't tell you how much it wasn't just Legion's appearance. I was hooked on the one that gets up and says, "I have to go and wake us." And I'm like, what concept is this?
Yeah.
And that pulled me in really fast.
Awesome.
There's a lot of fun visual gags in this, which I want to know was this Hayden or was this you? The one scene that I really like is when they're getting the nuke, and they are in the ship, and the image is just a splash page of the ship going through, and you kind of see the little guys jump out of the ship, get the nuke, jump into the ship, and fly off. And I just think that's so funny. Was that in the script, or was that Hayden doing, like, having fun?
It's probably more hate. I remember writing that in that particular way because I like making important things trivial. I think there's a line before that, in fact, where Billy's like, "Oh shit, I forgot there's a second nuke." And that's kind of like, and I love that you bring that up. And I think to answer the first question, I think that's mainly a Hayden thing. Like him and I talk a lot about that, and we're on the same page with that, which is so good. And he has such a great sense of humor. Like, we want to take a kind of like animated style approach, like not like make it look like animated or like it's supposed to be an animated show. But one of the brilliant things that like animated shows do that I love, like Simpsons or Rick and Morty or whatever, it's like there's a texture of gags to that. Mm-hmm. Like there's a lot of stuff that people are saying that are funny. There's a lot of stuff that's going on in the background, in the foreground. There's like all these like little sort of gags that are happening. I forgot what the rule is of like The Simpsons has a joke like every 3 seconds. It's like visual dialogue or something else. I have to, it's escaping me, but like they have this really strict kind of rubric of like, this is how we do our jokes. It's like something every 3 seconds. And we're not that strict on it, but it's like I wanted to build, kind of structure the stories around like being able to have like these weird gags and having like just stupid shit in the panels and what people are saying, and like constantly kind of like push that envelope to have it be funny. People are saying like really, heavy stuff, but there's also dick jokes.
Wasted Space. I think it rules, right? And I just reread Roche Lemon again because I didn't realize you wrote that book, and I picked that book up when it originally came out. Book also rules. That book is very much tonally not as funny as Wasted Space. But I also think that book is incredibly cool, and like it's like Total Recall, like crime noir. Like, I don't know how to really describe it. And like, that's what I like about your books. Like, it combines so many different genres to could really be its own unique thing. Because when you start Roche Limit and where you end Roche Limit, you would not have expected that. You think it's like a crime story, and then there's stuff about the Black Sun. I'm like, that's insane. Can you talk about like your influences? Because like, I feel like, because you're friends with like at least on Twitter, like Zach Thompson and Lonnie Nadler, and they also write my favorite genre stuff at Vault and Aftershock, and it feels like you all have the same, like, we grew up watching all the same effed up stuff. Can you talk about any of that stuff?
Yeah, no, of course, Zach and Lonnie are good friends. We've been buddies for a while, and I deeply admire their work. They're both together and unique on their own solo stuff. They're wonderful. And I think in terms of influence, I mean, my biggest influence in terms of this sort of stuff, in terms of like the sci-fi, it's, who should I say? I'm trying to narrow it down. I mean, Vonnegut is the biggest for sure. Vonnegut was the guy for me who, I don't like sci-fi that's like I'm not going to read The Three-Body Problem or whatever it's called. That's not going to happen because
that's
it's just,
the show. That's good.
You may have watched the show, but it's so dense and hard. I like the people who humanize sci-fi. That's why it's like almost like I almost wonder if I'm a sci-fi fan because I don't like that kind of stuff. But I like Vonnegut and I like Philip K. Dick, who find ways to take really super weird and challenging concepts and humanize them in this really, really great way, especially Vonnegut, whose ideas are tremendous and off the wall. And that's what he does so very, very well. And even better than that is the way he humanizes them, the way he makes, Sirens of Titan is, a book. You can read that as a book about, a guy, taking a journey to Mars, or journey to Titan and rocket ships, stuff like that. But really it's about a story about a man seeking fulfillment and realizing that there's no such thing, and it's really at its core a very deeply, deeply human story. And Vonnegut is hilarious. Vonnegut is so funny and manages to balance all these different things while delivering a really, really remarkably good story that's like a page turner too. Slaughterhouse-Five is a page turner, Breakfast of Champions, whatever it is. You keep going, and he's very weird. It's very just out there, but it's always funny and it's humane and it's a great story. And that's kind of things I want to do. Blade Runner or Gattaca, or those kind of movies.
Oh yeah,
yeah, that's all stuff. I love that stuff.
You have at the back that Michael Moreci and Hayden Sherman have thrown Philip K. Dick in a blender with Preacher.
Yeah,
was that your idea, or was that the publisher?
That's probably Vault. Vault. I mean, it's true. I mean, like, there's a lot of like Philip K. Dick from The World That Jones Made was pretty influential on this. Flow My Tears, Policeman said, I would say so too. Those are some pretty specific stuff that comes to mind. And Dick does the same thing. I think Dick is a little colder than Vonnegut. I think Vonnegut's always been a warmer writer to me, and I really like that. I really want Waste of Space at the end of the day to still be a very human story and a very like easily accessible human story. And Vonnegut does that so well. And Dick does too, just not the drugs get in the way a little. So it's a little different, but still achieving very similar ends.
I love it.
The Christmas special of Wasted Space has really shines a light on how much of an asshole our main character is.
Yes.
How do you balance making him both likable and unlikable at the same time, often in the same panel?
It's tough, and it's funny. I forget about the Christmas special. Just the worst lesson. It's like, how do we take O. Henry and just learn nothing? But yeah, I think the thing with Billy is that like he is deeply unlikable because if he were around today, he'd be the guy on Twitter just not getting it, but I think he's also the guy who you see in a more forgiving space than Twitter, who's a guy who wants to get better, like deep down, when you're writing, there's always two things that I think great characters have, is what they want and what they need. And what Billy wants is to kill the creator. That's the overall mission of the book. But what Billy needs is to redeem his soul. So like, as long as he's on that journey and his need remains the same, and sometimes he deviates and he finds different things that he thinks are going to redeem his soul. And I think that those are all very relatable needs, like, oh, he's, found love, or he's found, release for his anger against these people who've wronged him, or, whatever the case may be. We kind of can go along that journey with him because we're like, we get taking those shortcuts to be like, I know I have this problem and I know I need this need to be fulfilled, but like, as long as maybe I can shortcut my way to fulfillment, maybe I can shortcut my way to feeling better about life and existence. But the story goes on with Billy and he still hasn't gotten to where he needs to be. And that's to fulfill that need. Is it the same thing as his want? It can be. I think we'll find that in the last arc. But like that's the thing that I think keeps Billy relatable and human, is that like he has a really common and relatable want, a need, and I think we all feel that way, and that's what makes it, packaging that in like a something that's funny still and great people around him, makes him all the more digestible and understandable. It's hard how far we push him. There's been times where I didn't want to push him as far as we did, and saying terrible stuff. I remember Adrian, the editor, the scene, I think it's in the first arc where they get captured and by Rex, and Rex is and he rips into Rex. He's basically ripping into the generation of like people on their phones and Twitter, and they all have like hive mind. And I was like, I think we're gonna rattle some of the wrong cages here. And Adrian's like, no, go, just push it further. And we did, and I think it works. Although I did get people who emailed me who were like, and I get it. I was like, hey, just because I wrote it doesn't mean I agree with it. That's not the same thing. Billy can say things that I'm horrified by, but that's just,
it's all in favor. It's all true to the character.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, Billy. When I was reading this, Billy definitely seems like. I don't want to make this sound mean, but he definitely seems like that one person who was in college who took a whole bunch of psychology and philosophy classes and came out that guy by like sophomore, junior year, like who's like walking down campus thinking, I'm better than all of you. You all suck. But he turned into
and then dropped out.
Yeah, and then dropped out because it's pointless. But one of the things I wanted to ask you, because when I was reading this, there were many times I got a whole lot of Rick Remender vibes, where there's this one scene that's just, I'm just busting my gut laughing, trying not to laugh so loud to wake up my girlfriend. But then like immediately the next page just turns to 11 of super depressing shit. Where I'm like, so how do you do that? Do you plan it, or what's the process for doing that? Or does it just come out organically where something like really funny happens and then it goes to some real hardcore depressing stuff?
Well, yeah, a lot of that is planned. I try to make it the emotional through lines pretty clear, because in a way it's kind of easy because tragedy and comedy are so close. Like there's a lot of it's all about how you kind of view something, and it's easy to make something like in one moment you're laughing about something, but you could just as easily be crying over it at the same time. And I think Billy has built up so many walls that it's easy for him to laugh about it. But the second that he tears those walls down and you expose that core of a guy who's made deep mistakes, terrible mistakes, but feels deeply terrible about them. And I think that, Brandon, kind of goes back to your question about how I make him likable. Is like, he's made terrible mistakes, but he feels terrible about them. And like, that's when you get to that depressing stuff where it's like, he can't do anything but laugh, because the moment he doesn't, all he can do is cry. And, I want to make that true for Billy. As fun as a character he is to write, he's also a difficult character to write, because he is, he's flawed, and he's also sad. It's great to see him lashing out, but whenever he lashes out against, anybody around him, usually Rex, like, it's often kind of coming from a place of sadness and regret and all the mistakes that he's made. So it's sometimes hard to find a balance between those things of like, exposing that real core, and also him kind of constantly at war with that same core where he just doesn't want to deal with it. So he covers it up with acerbic humor and I'm better than everybody else. And that's the only way that he can shield these things that he's done and the person that he's allowed himself to become. Because he knows that while, he can look at it and say, well, the creator did me wrong, and I was used and this and that, but he knows he's complicit. He knows that he played a role, and he enjoyed playing the role while the ride was going. So he's a complicated character, which are the best characters, but he's also a challenging character to write. And but I enjoy that. I enjoy the challenge. I enjoy writing Billy. Not as much as I enjoy writing Dust, but I do enjoy writing Billy.
Yeah, that's why Dust is such a good foil for him. Because Dust will stay with him no matter what, because he knows this.
Exactly. Yep. That's why, he's driven to do the good thing despite the difficulty, and Billy's the opposite.
Sparks, do you have another?
So there's an audio piece of Wasted Space, the whole first volume. How did that project come about?
Yeah, I think it was so Vault has like their management who does their film, and then they have another management that does like their book market and all that kind of stuff, and then he has a relationship with Graphic Audio, and they were looking to adapt some graphic novel stuff, and they had done some in the past. I think they primarily done Marvel adaptations, if I'm not mistaken. And they looked at Vault's lineup, and that's something that really interested them to do. So they did. I mean, I was kind of like, didn't play a huge role in it. And I just like creative consultant, I guess you can say. But they did such a good job that I didn't really have to do much. It sounded great. It had like great effects. It was the voice actors were so good. It was such a fun adaptation. Right. But yeah, we were lucky. They saw, I guess, Graphic Audio saw something in it. Yeah, they're a little bit, the way they framed it to us, they're different than Audible. Audible's kind of like straight novels and stuff like that, adaptation for like, basically for readers. And the thing that I really loved about Graphic Audio is they're like, some of their main customers and listeners are like truck drivers and long haul drivers, which is actually what my own dad used to be. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. I love tapping into that audience. I love tapping into somebody who doesn't go to a bookstore or a comic shop and being able to like, I think that's like the beauty, one of my favorite, my heroes in this world is Stephen King. I think one of the beauties of Stephen King is that everybody experiences King because he speaks a very middle American language, a very like Americana. And anybody from people, truckers to academics to, I went and saw him read about 3 years ago, something like that. And the line, it was like a pre-sale, you can only get in by buying pre-sales. It was sold out weeks ahead of time. And like the line to get in for people at tickets, just to go and get in was like, just like through the parking lot, down city streets. It was huge. And that line was filled with old people, young people, black people, white people, everybody. It's just everybody reads Stephen King, because he kind of transcends like that, that narrow thinking that like, this is what a comic book reader is, and this is what a novel reader is. And he just speaks to everyone. And I hope, I like that somehow my work, hopefully, something like Wasted Space or whatever kind of taps into the same thing, and Graphic Audio was able to kind of expand that. And I like that we're, breaking that rubric of like, as you guys know, as comic fans, the direct market is just such a narrow lane, for many, many reasons. But the more we can open that up, the better, and I love that. I love what Graphic Audio did. I believe they're in the middle of the second one, I think, I don't think it's out. Maybe awesome. It's out. I don't think so. Yeah, they did. I mean, at the end of the day, besides all that, they did a great job, and I love that adaptation. It's super fun.
I gotta say, I never thought of making, like, it makes sense making books into audio form, but I never thought about podcast. But I decided on a whim to try out the Marvel Wolverine one. And it's excellent, and it's written by the guy who writes the current Wolverine comic. And I'm like, oh wow, this is real. You can really do this, and it makes me want to check out the Wasted Space one now that it's good.
So Ben,
Ben did a great job with that. Sorry.
So, Ben, would you agree with the Stephen King assessment there?
Don't you dare.
He's a Stephen King fan here.
I'm not. It's a stupid running joke that we've been going on for 3.5 years.
You got something, Brandon? I got something.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about so you've done some licensed comics. You've done Planet of the Apes, you've done Battles of Galactica.
RoboCop.
RoboCop. It's true.
I'm a huge Battlestar Galactica fan. That Battlestar Galactica that you wrote, those characters. I guess the question is, have you approached the license holders to do these books, or have they approached you? Like, are you fans and go looking for them?
Yeah, it works both ways sometimes. Like for Star Wars, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. like I said, I don't consider myself much of even though I've written a bit sci-fi. I don't consider myself like a huge sci-fi fan. But I love Star Wars with all of my heart. And I love Battlestar too. I love Battlestar.
Okay.
So Star Wars, I pursued them. Battlestar, I think they asked me. I think Dynamite. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure Dynamite asked me, and not only did I leap at it, but it was so great because they let me do whatever I want. They're like, basically, I think Dynamite is just one of those things. If you don't use the property, you lose it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they're just like, we got to put out something, and they're like, what? And it's hard. Writing Battlestar is really, really hard because if you know, that show is like airtight. Like it just goes day by day. There's not, besides the space that I wrote in, which is seasons 2 to 3, like in that period where they skip a few months, there's no time lapse in between. It's not like, between, Empire and Jedi, which is at least a year. There's just no, it's day to day. And so it's tough. So luckily that 2 to 3 window was one window that's open. But let's see, other stuff that I've done. I think Planet of the Apes, they came to me as well. I just did a Stranger Things thing that's coming out next month, and they came to me because they knew. Sometimes they just know you're a big fan. I love Stranger Things. I've talked about it plenty online and stuff like that. So they kind of recognize like, oh, this person likes Stranger Things or this person likes Battlestar. Star Wars is the one that I really had to doggedly pursue. And I'm so glad I did. I've been writing that for a few years now. I was actually writing it all day today, as a matter of fact. But yeah, it's a kind of a case by case thing. But I think usually it's like they come after you. And then you have to be approved by the licensor. It's a whole process, but it's usually pretty painless. It's always the best though when you're writing something that's like Battlestar that's not on the air right now, so it's not considered a live property, because then nobody really cares. And there's like way less rules. They're like, yeah, you do whatever.
So you did Star Wars Adventures for IDW. You have the Battle Tales for Clone Wars. It's almost done printing, right?
Yeah, that was also another kind of COVID. Everything threw that off because that was supposed to come out. That's been done for a while. That was, done, not released, but done. Those supposed to come out 5 Wednesdays. The 5 Wednesdays in April is supposed to be weekly. Then it got kicked back, and then we were like, okay, let's do monthly. And then the relaunch of Star Wars Adventures happens after that. And I'm writing at least, I don't know how long I'm writing for, actually. I'm writing issue 4 right now, so at least the first 4. And then I think I take a break, and then I come back a few issues later because I know what my next storyline is. I just don't know where it falls. I guess
that's exciting because I think you're the first person to write stories set between Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker.
That's So that's right. I did that. And I forget what Star Wars adventure stories that were. And then I was supposed to write the first story after Rise of Skywalker, but it got nixed at the last second. Yeah, that's what I thought you meant. I was like, wait, because it got solicited as that. It's like, follow, Rey after Rise of Skywalker. Then somebody saw that and they're like, wait, what?
That's funny.
So we had to change that up, which is fine. I think we're still telling a good story, but that would have been cool. That would have been pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Is Star Wars, is that like your white whale? Is that like the thing, like now that I'm writing that, like, my dreams are good? Or is there like another property where like, if I can get that one, then I'm good?
No, it's Star Wars. There's other stuff that I would still love to do that I'm like, that I think that I would have a ton of fun, characters or worlds, whatever. But like Star Wars is like the one. I
believe it. Oh yeah.
I got lucky.
In relation to the Star Wars Adventures, which you've been doing a great job with, the Battle Tales.
Thank you.
Is there a lot of like any kind of pushback on where you need to stay in realms of continuity kind of thing? Because I'm sure they like really micromanage a lot of the other series that Marvel does, but I don't know how much they'd really get on your case about Adventures. Is it a little looser, do you feel?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're in a really good spot. Well, there's two things. One is kind of like I've learned to like how to navigate that a little bit because I've been doing it for a while. I don't know how long for how much, but I've been doing it for a while. Like my first go at it when I was doing what was it? The Flight of the Falcon was my first series, and they were like, I was like, what if we write about? Oh God, I can't believe I'm drawing a blank. Ord Mantell. I was like, well, we did something Ord Mantell, and they're like, no, they're like, you're not touching that, and I was like, fair. So it's like, as long as you don't ask for stupid stuff, you're not like, hey, can I write, Ray? Can I, I've had people be like asking basically like to retcon. I've had a few people ask like if I can retcon Kylo and Ray and all that stuff, Rise of Skywalker basically. Like, I write children's Star Wars comics. Like, why do you think I have the power to change the movie? Like,
you see your name next to Star Wars and they assume, oh my God, it's George Lucas.
Yeah, that guy's powerful.
There's a hierarchy of canon that starts at the movies and then trickles down.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And we're kind of like, I don't know about like in terms of like, obviously Lucasfilm pays a lot of heart and mind to everything, but like Marvel is so different because Marvel is like a continuing story that is like, we're both canon, but like Marvel is like deliberately filling in spaces. The Adventures line bounces around, like, like it'll be like, so for instance, like issues 1 and 2 of the relaunch, there's a Rey, Finn, Poe story that takes place, right before Rise of Skywalker. 3 and 4 is an Obi-Wan Phantom Menace story, Phantom Menace era story.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not like, it's purposeful so kids can pick up an issue or two and they don't have to know like the 17 that came before it, because they're kids, and I think that's fair. But like, we're not laden with so much continuity. We can't contradict something that's already happened or going to happen, and we can't like rewrite anything or whatever. But like, there's a lot more flexibility in terms of like exactly like what you're saying. Like the demands for me aren't as tough as they are for Marvel, because Marvel is like, it's a different thing, and I'm kind of okay with that. And I like writing for kids a lot better.
Right, because you're both canon, but they're building a timeline and you're just having fun spots in the timeline.
It almost seems like, it'd be great to write, the Star Wars like Marvel comic, but it almost seems like you're beholden to so much continuity, and people upstairs were like, can I just write like the cool Clone Wars like battle? Because like that seems like you get to like tell fun stories like almost however you want, of course with like limitations, but like I feel like I'd rather write your book than like the main book.
Yeah, I mean, that's the beauty of it. I mean, to be honest, I do like that more. I mean, like the Clone Wars thing was actually my pitch. Like the Battle Tales like originated from me, like, which is not very often. Like usually like Lucasfilm is like, we're going to, or IDW or both, they're like, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. Where I was like, hey, Clone Wars is coming back. Let's do a Clone Wars series. And, they were like, sure, which is great. But like, and Marvel doesn't do that. They don't have that same kind of flexibility. Like we can bounce around the timeline, like I said. So like we can just do like, hey, let's do a fun Clone Wars series. And it's not even continuity laden. Where it takes place. It takes place early in the Clone Wars. That's kind of all you need to know. It's not like we're worried about really anything.
I watched 8 seasons of Clone Wars. Like I'm not worried about where exactly. Like I know there's a lot of battles. I get it.
There's a lot of battle. That series doesn't even take place in order. Who knows when those episodes are happening? We don't even know.
The last season doesn't take place in order either.
It doesn't?
Nope. The second arc takes place way before the first arc.
So Ahsoka's arc, the Coruscant, takes place before the Bad Batch stuff?
Yep.
That's so that doesn't make any sense. I hate it.
I believe it. I didn't know that. I did not know that.
Because in the beginning of the Coruscant arc, when Anakin is on Coruscant, he's not supposed to be there. He's supposed to be in the Outer Rim. That's how you know it takes place before.
Oh, yeah. That actually tracks. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the Siege of Mandalore storyline was easy to follow.
Yeah.
Seriously.
I mean, oh boy.
So,
my mind's blown.
So you're a comic writer. You also have a published novel. Is that it's called Black Star Renegades? Is that correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so is being a novelist something you wanted to be from the get-go, or is that something that like you wanted to write comics and then you became like a novelist, or was it kind of just all at the same time?
No, I think it's both. Like I love writing so much. Like this is what I do all day. I just adore the craft, and it's allowed me. People ask, and I'm not like I'm patting myself in the back because I'm not saying everything I've done is good, but I have done a lot, and it's because I'm able to be prolific because I just love this so much. I love writing, and so I wanted to write novels. I've always wanted to write comics, even film. Like hopefully, I sold a movie this year and written that. I don't know, whatever. And
you did the thing. That's all that matters.
I did the thing with the writing and the pen and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of always want to do both. And, it's funny because, Black Star Renegades was the thing that came out of, going to your question earlier, Brandon, where they're like, how do these things happen with licensed stuff? Like I was pitching an editor who eventually became my novel editor, Black Star Renegades editor at St. Martin's Press. And I was pitching it and wasn't getting anywhere. And he's like, hey, you really love Star Wars. Just write something that's like Star Wars. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And I pitched him that and we were off and running, so it's kind of like people know what you love and you're able to kind of lean into those strengths. But, I've been lucky to be able to do, different things, and I love being able to do that. Like I don't want to say get bored. I just get antsy. I couldn't write, I couldn't be Dan Slott. I couldn't write 900 issues of something. I would just lose my mind. Like I just cannot be like, I write Spider-Man for a decade. Like, I mean, good for him. Good for him. This is a knock on Dan Slott. He did a great job. Oh boy, I couldn't. I would go nuts. I'm not that writer.
The attention span to write, 10 years of the same thing. I'm like, man, you got to be the type of person. I'm the same way. Like I don't think I could do that. That's crazy.
No, I really love Spider-Man, man.
Yeah. No, real quick, because it's tied to what he was just saying. Is there because we talked about you like not getting too involved with Marvel and DC, but is there a character where you've like, I'd like just a year where I get to just tell one concise thing?
Swamp Thing.
Nice.
Swamp Thing for sure.
Yeah, bro, I got the Swamp Thing tattoo. That's
awesome.
all about it.
Oh man. Oh,
it's,
dude.
It's from
dude, that's rad.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's nice.
It makes sense with everything else you write. Yeah, the Swamp Thing would be your guy. That makes sense.
That'd be really cool.
I love Swamp Thing. I've tried pitching on it. It's a hard thing because Swamp Thing's not always running, and they don't seem to really know what they want to do with it. So
sure, makes sense.
It's like that or Animal Man. Like I'm not really like I don't want to write the Justice League. That's not really my thing. I don't even know what to do with that. But like the weird off the beaten path stuff, I would totally love to do. But those are tough nuts to crack.
Have you read Immortal Hulk by any chance?
Oh, I love it. It's fantastic.
Okay.
The LU.
Yeah, because I think of like off the cuff like mainstream Marvel comics. Because I understand I like not writing like Batman or Captain America. But I look at Immortal Hulk and I'm like, oh, you can do that to the Hulk. I want more of that for every comic book. I think that's sick.
I wish, because he nailed it. He nailed it. Like, oh, Hulk was a horror comic all this time. We didn't see that.
I wasn't a huge Hulk fan until I started reading Immortal Hulk. Now I'm like, I want it all. Give me all viewings of Immortal Hulk stuff. I love it. Yeah, but going back to earlier when you said that you write both comics and novels, what's your process from jumping in between the two? Because I can only imagine that with the comic book, you have a script, you have to describe things in a different way, dialogue is different, whereas a prose novel, it's completely different writing-wise. So what's your process for writing both a comic book and a novel?
Well, that's a great question. I guess I could say, I find, and I don't mean this as a knock on comics, and I'll explain why, but I find writing a novel is way more satisfying because it's just me and all the artistry is going into the book, like there's no artist, there's no colors, there's nothing like that. So like what you see is what you get. Like that finished product is mine, and I have to kind of be, I'm not more invested, but deeper is a deeper investment, because like a script, script is like the least sexy thing in the world, like it's just instructions for the artist. That's all a script is. It's just like, draw this thing, like, and they make it look great. Like Hayden makes it look great. I try to write really cool scripts. I try to like write interesting scripts. Like I write in a very casual way, and I'm just like, make it fun and have some levity to it. But like, really, it's the least sexy thing in the world. It's no different than like a manual for putting together a bookshelf. It's just like, here's what you do. That's it. And then in the dialogue, and so there's really, they're not the funnest things, right? They're challenging, and I love breaking story, and I love writing. It's not like I don't love the process of doing it and bringing a story to life and structuring it and, fleshing out these characters, everything we talk about with Billy or Molly or Dust or whomever. But like when you write a novel, it's really doing it on your own and filling in those old gaps. It's a whole different craft to it. It's also like the writing is a craft. The writing in the script isn't a craft, like both of them are the same storytelling craft, which is what I love, but there's no writing craft like to a script. You're trying to make it as clear as possible. If you're trying to make a craft out of your writing of your script, you're kind of an asshole, because like you're just making it hard for your for your artist is just trying to like, just give me the point, just get like,
dude,
tell
Alan
me
Moore
this panel.
Alan Moore would write like 3 pages for one panel, and I'm like, it's just a tree, Alan, like come on.
Yeah, one of the greatest storytellers but of our time, of any time, but good God, why are you doing this to your artists?
Yeah.
Like you're just wasting their time, like if you can just say Batman punches Luthor or Batman punches Joker, whoever, just say Batman punches, that's it. Just Batman punches. That's all you have to say, like, and I do see, writers who fret over that. And it's like, like it doesn't matter, they're artists. They're the ones who know how to execute that on the page better than any writer on the face of this earth. Like, unless it's like a writer artist, whatever, let's like Sean Murphy or whatever. But like any writer who's going to write a script doesn't know how to execute on the page as much as an artist. Like, I trust them to do their job. My job is to structure the story. Mm-hmm. That's my job, to do that and kind of flesh out these characters. Their job is to make it execute all that on the page. They know how to do that. I know how to do what I do. And that's how collaborations work. And if you're doing more than that and just trying to make an artistry of your script, you're just wasting everybody's time.
I was just about to bring Snyder and Capullo up.
Yeah, he used to talk about ages ago when he first started doing Batman that, when he first started, he would be very descriptive, but then after a while, he and Greg got a repertoire together. They got trust, and they were able to kind of have a shorthand, and they didn't need to be so descriptive anymore.
Yeah, I mean, this is something I've learned definitely over years, because my scripts used to be much longer than they are now. And it's like, it's weird. You feel like you're like shortchanging or something like that. Actually, like, well, I'm getting paid, X amount. I got to put in X amount, but that payment is for the outlining and the characters and all that kind of stuff that like you don't see in the script, but exists in there nonetheless. That's what the work is, like the work isn't, extraneous details, and again, it's something that you learn over time, and I've learned that, especially with Hayden, now it's like, I don't have to really write anything, like I'll there's sometimes I'm like, Hayden, this page is, they're going to run from this guy, and that's really all he needs. And he does it, and it works better. I mean, some artists don't like that. They're like, hey, break it down panel by panel. And that's what they want. Each collaboration is different, but Hayden, and a lot of artists I work with really like that freedom to be like, hey, make this page your own. This is what needs to happen. Make it happen. Like, I'm not trying to be lazy, but you want to also, like, again, it's the magic word is collaboration. And this is what you do, and have some owners. It gives artists more ownership over the storytelling. And I think that works. I really think that works. And I'm a big, I really endorse that idea of letting artists kind of like run, and you get some really cool stuff that's really, in Wasted Space alone, kind of changed a few things, and always for the better.
Yeah,
I love it.
Nice.
So we are running a little long. So I want to ask. Do we have another question we want to ask?
I got one more question, and I'm good. Okay. So Roche Limit was optioned for a TV show. a couple years ago. I don't know if you have any developments on that, because I don't think every comic or thing needs to get turned into a movie or property or whatever. But like, I really like Roche Limit, and I think it would be a dope like procedural or not procedural, but like a dope like noir TV show. Is there any development with that at all?
Well, yeah. So yes, but not in the original iteration. So I can tell you, because time has passed. So I think I've said the story before. If I haven't, well, now it's gonna be public. So with the original iteration that we saw was to Fremantle does American Gods and other stuff.
I used to work for Fremantle.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Did you ever know about? I know it's like huge. Like, did you ever? This was, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, maybe.
Oh, it was
maybe
after
more.
I left then.
Oh, okay. But it's nothing to do. Actually, Fremantle was great. You know, they were actually they kept that thing going, and it was with sci-fi. So the the very, very long story short, because this went on for years. The long story short is that honestly, so many comics got option. There's probably an announcement every day of something getting option, and that's great for the creators, great for everyone who gets that. And I've had many things optioned myself, and I've had nothing made. But like Roche Limit was one. Like we were there. We were at the go line. It was to the point with sci-fi where like it was just through everybody waiting to sign like the final approval from like the up. We get them to sign. We're making it. We had the script. We had the director. I can't say who the director is, but I'll tell you what. She has blown up since this happened. And oh my God, if we had this episode, this is the one that got away, because she is real good. But anyway, she was attached to direct. We had the script from this guy Will Pascoe, who's a friend of mine. He had written for Orphan Black. He's currently show running the Amazon show Absentia. Great writer. He wrote a great pilot. We were like right there. And then George R. R. Martin's Night Flyers came out. And it was expensive, and it was terrible, and it bombed. And Sci-Fi took one look at Roche Limit and they said, "Oh, another expensive space show?" Nope. So George R. If you're mad about there not being a Roche Limit show, you George R. Yeah, it's Night Flyers. I mean, there's really no way around it. Night Flyers killed that show.
Specifically because I think
it's alive in another iteration, though. I'll tell you that. I can't say much.
That's
but
good.
Yeah,
that's good.
Sorry, what was that? What was your question, Ryan?
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think Sci-Fi, like maybe 10 years ago, I'd be like, maybe not, but like recently, Sci-Fi has done some really, really great adaptations. Like Deadly Class and Happy are both excellent adaptations.
Yeah, they are.
That are on Sci-Fi. And I'm like, wow, I can't believe Sci-Fi made this.
Krypton was good.
Krypton is surprisingly good. Yeah. So they were doing good stuff. It's a shame. Hopefully, it'll come back around somewhere though. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a chance. I hope so. And like, it's just tough. It's tough doing sci-fi because or science fiction, not the network. It's tough doing science fiction. It's expensive. It's expensive to make these shows. Roche Limit was not going to be cheap. That was the big thing. So it was an adaptation of Volume 2 with flashbacks. So the idea was that it was going to be the story of Volume 2 with flashbacks of Volume 1 weaved throughout like 2 or 3 seasons or whatever. That was like the first that was like the long game, is the way that Will formatted. It was brilliant. But that was not a cheap show. It was just not a cheap show. And that's why, yes, I joke, George R. R. Martin, Night Flyers, but like once you see an expensive show fail, it's hard to make another expensive show. And Roche Limit was going to be an expensive show.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Okay. So, that I think we'll have to let you go. But what's next for you? What's coming out for you?
Good question. So I've got we already talked about Waste of Space. The next Volume 3 just came out. Issue 16 comes out next month. Then it goes. We're going to 25. Let's see. I've got more Star Wars. The Clone Wars wraps up. The relaunch comes shortly after that. I have a series called Archangel 8 at AWA, which is just wrapping up, and the trade comes out next month. The Plot, which is also my series at Vault. 2 more issues exist of that. It was an 8-issue series. We have 7 and 8 coming out in the next 2 or 3 months. And that what's else coming out? I think that's it. I'm kind of looking at my shelf of like my work shelf. I think that's it. That's all I can think of, really. So yeah, I mean, working on other stuff, that'll see the light of day eventually. So always busy, always working, always grateful and glad to be working. But yeah, trying to. I got to wrangle Hayden. Him and I are talking about what's next. So hopefully, we'll take a little break and then do something together again because he's the greatest. And then yeah, just seeing what else. Oh, a new Vault series is coming. I think next year. I think it's coming next year. That we're if you like Wasted Space, it's very wasted spacey. It's wasted space and like I can't say much, but a wasted space in a fantasy setting. Ooh. And it's crazy. It's one of the crazy things I've ever written. I'm so excited that the art we're almost halfway done with it. We're getting it all in the can. Nice. And it's really good. The artist is so good. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be a wild series. I'm excited for that.
It's awesome. Well, we're excited too. Okay, so where can they find you in the meantime?
Yeah, I mean, usual social media, even though I kind of I stay off a little, but I'm at Michael Moreci on Instagram and Twitter, and my website is michaelpmoreci.com, which I try to update and usually fail. But yeah, those are the typical places. Is Instagram and Twitter are the best places for sure.
Okay, very cool. Well, that'll do it then. Thank you so much for coming on. This was really fun. This was really great.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for having me. This is great. It's great questions. It's so nice to talk to all of you. Thank you very much. Thank you for reading. Thank you for everything. I really, really appreciate it.
Maybe we can get you back on for the final volume of Wasted Space.
Yeah, that'd be great. That would be great. Like a what's the word I'm looking for?
In memoriam?
I don't know. Like some sort of not a recap, but like a decompression or something like that. After all said and done, when we finally make it to 25, which is pretty wild.
All right, so everyone watching this, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to like this video. You can find us all at Fake Nerd Podcast on all the social medias. FakeNerdPodcast.com is our website. You can find everything. Got a lot of great shows here. Check out the links in the description below. All right, guys, thank you so much, and stay fake nerds.